On my son's wedding day, I wore a suit. That didn't fit quite right, and a smile. That fit even less. I paid for the flowers, the food, the band chose, the venue, myself a place he used to love as a boy when the world was simpler and his. Loyalty didn't have a price tag. I stood near the back, invisible in a room full of people clinking glasses and dancing. Over the grave of a family that used to be mine, I watched him laugh tall, confident, his mother's smile on his face. And when it was time to sit for dinner, I wandered toward the head table, just for a glimpse, just to see. That's when I saw it, a seat with a name card, mom and stepdad right next to him, another for their dog, the damn dog. No card for me, not a spot, not even a stool. In the shadows, he looked over, caught my eye, and smirked like this was awesome inside. Joke I'd forgotten the punchline to. Come on, Dad, he said, you always liked staying in the background. You're just back where you belong. I didn't say a word, didn't flinch, just nodded once and walked toward the far wall, back into the hush of silence that always followed me after the divorce. The room swelled with music and fake laughter, 1,000 champagne bubbles rising, popping. Forgetting, I watched my ex-wife whisper into her new husband's ear, the man who moved into my house before my scent had even faded from the sheets, the man who coached my son's little league games while I sat in parking lots 2 minutes late, and 20 feet away she smiled at me, tight-lipped and polite like I was a distant uncle, not the man who gave her 2 decades of my youth. The speeches began, they toasted her sacrifices, her love. They even toasted the dog my son thanked his stepdad for always being there. I felt the words slip down my throat like glass. I slipped away for a moment into the hallway where the noise softened and I could finally hear my own heartbeat. I reached into the inside of my coat, fingers brushing against the small, cold weight of the box, heavier than its contents alone could explain. I traced its edges, memories flooding in with every contour. The late night spent awake, the skin knees I cleaned and bandaged, the science fair projects crafted from cardboard, sweat, and too much coffee. All of it unseen, unacknowledged. When I stepped back inside, I stayed quiet, still, watching the evening stretch before me like a gathering storm. I wasn't after revenge. What I wanted was truth, substance. I wanted to understand what he'd tossed aside, not with rage, but with clear eyes. When the DJ invited the newlyweds to cut the cake, I walked forward, just long enough to set the box on the head table. I didn't say a word, just left it there. He frowned, confused, eyed like it might explode. A few heads turned, some phones lifted. The room inhaled. He opened it. Inside, neatly folded, lay a letter written in jagged pencil lines, the handwriting of a child, maybe 9 years old. Dear Dad, it read, I want to be just like you when I grow up. I don't want any other dad. You're my hero. Beneath it, another sheet, a paternity test, dated 4 months back. It bore the name of the man now seated beside his mother, and beside it, the word father. The silence didn't break. It collapsed. You could hear it, the sharp, collective gasp as the floor dropped from under every illusion in the room. He blinked, once, twice, eyes moving between the letter and the test. Then up at me, his face fractured in places that had never known uncertainty. My ex-wife rose slowly, her color draining, her lips parted, but she found no words. The new husband looked frozen, caught mid-theft. In the middle of it all, the family dog barked, absurd and misplaced, like it was trying to reclaim the moment. I stepped forward. 1 step. That was all. I always stayed in the background. I said gently, not because I was small, but because I wanted you to shine. He opened his mouth, maybe to explain, maybe to plead, but I had already given him everything. My silence was loyalty. My distance, grace. He stood so fast his chair clattered to the ground, calling after me, but I didn't turn back. I didn't have to. The truth stood where I once did. I left before the cake was sliced, before the music could drown out what had just been revealed, before the guilt could wrap itself in apologies. I hadn't come to hurt him. I had come to give him weight, Something he could never unfeel, a moment carved into memory. The exact second the bottom dropped out, and he realized who had held him all along, not the man beside his mother. Me. Outside, the sky was fading into violet. The wedding hall glowed behind me, like a lantern haunted by ghosts. I climbed into my car and drove. 5 hours through the dark. Not once did I stop. Sometime past midnight, I pulled over, got out, and screamed. Not in grief, but in release. A long, buried sound finally allowed into the air. He'll reach out someday, when the lies begin to unravel, when the dog dies, when that letter becomes heavier than all the toasts made in my absence. But I won't be waiting. I'll be living. Because the truth is, not all seats are taken from you. Some you walk away from. And sometimes, the only way to truly arrive is to leave the room